Welcome to Perfection Learning's 6-8 Adoption Overview video. My name is Zach Smith. I'm the North Texas sales rep for Perfection Learning. As I've talked to teachers all over the state, from big districts to small districts and everything in between, it seems that they've had a very similar experience and are kind of telling the same story. The textbooks that were adopted 10 years ago, they were really excited about them. There's a big, beautiful textbook of literature, and once they got it in the classroom, it just failed to bring the instructional value that it promised. And as a result, that burden of finding something that works fell to the teachers. And for the most part, teachers really did a great job at finding things that really connected with their kids. But the problem is that it cost the teachers too much time and energy and money. Sometimes they're paying for their own instructional materials. And Perfection Learning as a company really thinks that if you're spending that much money on a resource, it should make your life easier and really help the students. And that gets to the heart of why we are in this adoption. We've been alongside you in this fight for the last 10 years, providing instructional materials, supplemental instructional materials. So when we saw the new TEKS come out, we said, that's a pitch that we can hit. But we took a step back and said, okay, if the textbook didn't work, what else could we provide and rethink what the instructional materials could be? And so what you're going to see today is we're offering a suite of materials that is not only innovative and comprehensive, but it's also flexible. Because literally, I don't think I've ever talked to a teacher that said, I start on page 1 and go all the way through to page 450 and just follow the book. Maybe a first year, second year teacher, you can do that with the centerpiece of our adoption offering, Connections, but you can also use it modularly. So no matter what scope and sequence that you have, if you want to keep the one you're already using or you're using like a TRS, you can actually break out the different pieces of our core piece here, Connections, and attach them to your scope and sequence. So instead of giving you a one-stop shop textbook solution, boom, there's your literature book, we wanted to give you flexible resources that are innovative and powerful, but also can adapt to whatever maybe scope and sequence you have in your district. But we didn't just stop here. We wanted to equip you with a suite of resources so that no matter what happens in the out years of this adoption, maybe in year 7, you get a group of kids that really need help in a specific area. We wanted to give you something that's comprehensive and flexible, but then equip you with a suite of resources that you can draw upon and pull in as needed. So we wanted to give you a lot of voice and choice and flexibility in how and what you teach. So Connections, it is a consumable because we want kids annotating the text. So you will get, for your adoption money, our main package comes with 8 years of consumable work texts. So this is rich literature, but it doesn't just stop there. We've actually come up with a very research-based, effective way to, I hear teachers say all the time, I signed up to be, a middle school teacher because I wanted to get kids excited about great literature, but I don't really know how to teach them how to read. They can decode all the words, but how do they actually unpack a text? It's a heavy lift, and that's what this was designed to do. So we start with great literature, and we add this research-based close reading process for skill acquisition. So it's not just skills out of context. We're actually practicing very specific TEKS-based skills in the context of great literature. So I can't wait to dive in and show you a little bit about that. But the second piece that comes with our adoption package is Literature and Thought. Now, Literature and Thought is a series of 25 different titles that you get to pick from that essentially has great, complex, rich selections of literature grouped around a theme or an essential question. All right, so there are 25 different titles. So this one is Free at Last, The Struggle for Civil Rights. Voices of the Holocaust is probably the most popular one. I'm a big nerd. I like the sci-fi factor, and one of my favorite ones is To Be a Hero. So those are just 4 of the 25 that you get to pick from in our adoption package. You get the 8 years of consumable work text with Connections that the kids can annotate and mark up, but you also get 2 free class sets of the title of Literature and Thought of your choice. We want students to have, we're big fans of classroom libraries because we want students to have voice and choice in what they read. We're big fans of giving you voice and choice in what and how you teach as a teacher. So another resource that we're including for free in our adoption package, I'm very excited about this, is our high interest, low reading level books. So it's a digital library of 30 of our best high-low titles. We have over 450. So we're including our 30 best high-lows in a digital online library that any kid can access from any device, but there is also a print option. So if you want to have a print classroom library, that's something that we can also offer. So as you're reviewing the materials from the different publishers, notice that a lot of them don't include a lot of grammar, usage, mechanics, that sort of thing. We wanted to equip you with a resource that goes right at that problem. Students kind of struggle with grammar. So we are including digitally, for free, the Essential Guide to Writing and Language. So essentially this is a handbook that takes each mode of writing and says we're going to do a full writing process, steps the students through the writing process for argumentative essay, something like that. And then also the latter chapters are grammar, usage, mechanics. Here's the rule, here's an example. Here's the rule, here's an example. It's very quick, very to the point, very student friendly. Along with this, to accompany this, each chapter has skill sheets. So these are just, if your students need extra practice, the skill sheets are a really great resource, maybe for homework, that just sort of, it's not in context like connections where everything's sort of, writing, speaking, listening, all that, grammar in context. This is just separate worksheets that you can pull in as needed. We also wanted to equip you with powerful online tools. Now, there's a digital version of Connections. It's page for page the same. It's very user-friendly and easy to use. You just swipe left and right to turn pages. Any of the text box, you just click in the text box and click out of the text box. And you can also highlight and annotate as well. So it's very simple, very easy to use. Along with that, there's an assignment generator. So you can design tests by TEAC. So you can take a standard and pull in a lot of questions that deal with that standard and design your own quizzes. And something that I get very excited about is PowerWrite. Now, PowerWrite is a new essay writing program that really scaffolds the process of essay writing, no matter what type of essay you're writing, using a suite of graphic organizers. Those graphic organizers really scaffold the process of idea generation, organization, and first draft. From there, the students self-assess, and there's also a peer review process. So by the time they get their first draft done, they're farther down the track than a typical first draft. So one last thing I wanted to mention here, the state is providing over $170 per student in this adoption. Our top package only comes out to $131. So you actually have a lot of flexibility to add certain items. We have a lot of great supplemental things that we can bring to bear to equip you with even more powerful instructional materials. But a couple of things I wanted to mention are classroom libraries and Covercraft. So we actually offer several smaller classroom libraries that, when added together, come out to 330 titles. That's a great start for any teacher wanting to do Reader's Workshop or just have voice and choice for their students in their independent reading. Now, one last thing that Perfection Learning offers that no one else can is Covercraft. Now, Covercraft is our proprietary hard-binding version of novels that comes with a lifetime guarantee. So if the binding ever fails for whatever reason, we replace it, no questions asked. Thank you so much for reviewing Perfection Learning's adoption offering, the most powerful, innovative, and flexible package in this adoption. Connections, Literature and Thought, the digital high-interest slow-reading library, the Essential Guide to Writing and Language and its accompanying skill books, and our online suite including PowerWrite. The power of Connections lies in its clever integration of the 7 strands of the new TEACs into a new and innovative lesson structure that accomplishes a great deal and yet at the same time is straightforward and easy to follow. We take the complexity of the new integrated and recursive TEACs and make it simple. We do this by weaving together 3 powerful instructional strategies: close reading, explicit skill development, and critical thinking. Let's take a look at what I call the heart of a chapter in Connections to see this innovative lesson design. In Connections, we take a complex, layered selection and have students read that selection 3 separate times for 3 separate and distinct purposes. We look at the passage from 3 different perspectives or lenses to discover increasingly deeper and more sophisticated aspects of the text. We typically go from the what, the surface level meaning, to the how, typically author's craft, and finally to the why, the deeper meaning of the text and the author's purpose. Note that in each of these close reads, we give a concrete objective before reading, something to look for, annotate, highlight, etc. This small feature makes a big difference in combating reading anxiety, reluctance, and fake reading. If the students have a specific mission, the passage seems less daunting than if they were just sent into it blindly. Close reading is a general name, and not every publisher interprets it the same way. Now, in between each of the close reads, students work through a skill lesson that references the material in the passage. Each of the Focus On activities guides the student through a skill exercise so they can then apply that skill in their independent reading. Sprinkled throughout the close reads and Focus On skill exercises are prompts to speak and listen. These prompts integrate critical thinking into the lesson as students engage in authentic discussions about the ideas and events contained into the text with the whole class, their group, or a partner. Close reading, skill development, and critical thinking, all integrated just like the new TEKS prescribe. Now that we know the heart of a chapter, the heart of the lesson design, let's take a look at all of the features in a chapter in Connections. Every chapter has the same consistent format that becomes familiar to the student as they progress through the book. Each chapter opens with previewing ideas and making connections. We want to discuss the concepts and ideas in the passage to come and connect these ideas to the student's own life and experience. The goal is to get their brains thinking in the right direction before we commence reading the selection. We also give students goals for the chapter and touch on the academic vocabulary that they will encounter. Once the students are intellectually and emotionally invested, we launch into the heart of the chapter, the close reads, Focus On skill exercises, and the speaking and listening discussions. Note that while these close reads and Focus On lessons work best in order, they are in most cases modular and can be done in any order that you see fit as the teacher. Grammar is typically an area of struggle for many students. Immediately following the close reads and Focus On skill exercises, Connections then provides a language lesson that examines a specific aspect of grammar within the chapter's passage, grammar in context, and integrated into the reading, again, just like the new TEKS require. Following the language lesson, we provide 2 project-based assessments. These student-directed assessments allow more advanced students to go even further in their understanding of the skill and content, and even higher up on Bloom's taxonomy as they synthesize and create a project of some kind. This allows the teacher time to circle back with any struggling students, while the high flyers follow the clear instructions in order to complete the project in pairs or groups. Following the project-based assessments, each chapter in Connections offers optional on-your-own extension activities to take their interest in a chapter's given passage to a whole new level. Many of the on-your-own activities point students to other texts and novels that are thematically connected to the chapter selection. Lastly, while we never want to teach to the STAR test, it is a concern and the metric by which our campuses and districts are measured. To make sure we equip students with the skills they need to perform their best on the STAR test, we finish out a chapter with Connect to Testing. If this chapter's passage was a selection on the STAR test, what might the questions look like? What would the student be expected to do with the text? Please note here that TEA has not released any information about the format and nature of the new test, but as soon as that information is available, we will be revising the online Connect to Testing. Also, in the coming years, we will be continually aligning and reworking our STAR Prep materials after tests are released. Now that we've seen the different parts of a chapter and the intentional and consistent instructional design, let's look at the macro structure of Connections. Connections has 4 units, and each of these units has an essential question with 5 chapters. All of the selections in the 5 chapters tie back to the essential question and give differing perspectives on it. Pursuant to the new TEKS multi-genre requirement, the selections chosen for Connections represent a blend of fiction and informational texts in a variety of genres. Each selection was evaluated with a 3-part model for measuring text complexity, as well as its literary and historical significance. Following the 5 chapters in a unit, there's a full essay writing process using the theme and passages in a given unit. This is just another example of the truly integrated nature of Connections and how its design matches the spirit of the new TEKS. Please note that there are other essay writing opportunities in the supporting material that comes free with our adoption package. The final piece in a Connections unit, and perhaps my favorite, is the practice performance task. Students reread small portions of the passages that they've encountered in the unit's 5 chapters in order to revisit the ideas as they relate to the essential question. Then, the students are prompted to write a short essay synthesizing the different perspectives in the passages and using their critical thinking skills actually answer the essential question for themselves. All the reading, writing, speaking, listening, and thinking that the student has done over the course of a unit culminates in the student analyzing, synthesizing, and forming an opinion of their own about the essential question. One last note on Connections: it genuinely builds towards college and career readiness. If a student can read a passage deeply and extract layers of meaning, if they can transfer their reading skills to any text in multiple genres, if they can think critically and have the soft skills to discuss their ideas, if they can internalize the writing process and cogently express their ideas in written form, would they not then be college, career, and life ready? Connections, a truly powerful and integrated approach that meets not only the quantitative measure of the new TEKS, but also their integrated spirit. Comprehensive enough to be a full curriculum, and yet flexible enough to support multiple curricular approaches. Connections makes the transition to the new TEKS simple, easy, and effective, and thus living up to Perfection Learning's mission to have successful students and happy teachers.